see what else. I've been marking your assignment from last week, the one that you actually handed in. Okay, if you've not handed that in yet, make sure that you do it and get it handed in, because getting that feedback on last week's assignment is going to be really important going forward, because it'll show you if you're making any mistakes or anything, you'll just know where you're making them. Okay, so today what we're going to be doing is I'm actually not going to use this document, but I wanted to show it to you. This is what you're going to get. Okay, it's called Algebraic Manipulation. Some of you may be fantastic at this already, and you might be like, Ms. Vance, why are you showing me this? But I know that algebra is something that is no longer covered as heavily in the math curriculum as it used to be, say, even 10 or 15 years ago. And so it's something I want to make sure that you guys are good at, because it is the one math skill, well, it's one of a couple math skills that will be used in science all the time. Okay, so let us go to here, and I'm going to actually do what was on that other sheet. So this is the algebraic manipulation. It's basically just algebra. And I'm going to show you two ways of doing it. Okay, and in general, these questions are going to say solve for, or they are going to say isolate. And basically what that means is that you want to solve for or isolate. That means you're going to get the variable, if I say x, okay, get x all on its own on one side, so you'll see me often write what's cluttering up the x, right? So if I had y equals mx, it would be the m that's cluttering up the x, because I want x all by itself on one side. If I have x all by itself on one side, but it is in the denominator, that's no good either. X has to be on the top. In other words, in the numerator. There's a lot of bumps in that M, but that's okay. The numerator. Okay, so we're going to start with an equation that looks like this. I have A is equal to B over C. Now you can, because you're getting a handout with all of this on it, you can feel free to either copy this down as we go, or you can just be like, I'm just going to watch it and I know it's on that handout for me to refer to later. Okay. So we want to solve for B. Which means we want B all by itself, and we want it on the top. So first of all, we can ask ourselves, is B on the top already? Ah, it is. It's on the top. So I don't have to worry about that. I just leave it where it is. So what I do have to do, though, is I have to get B all on its own. So what is cluttering up B right now? What's cluttering up B? Yeah, C is cluttering up B. So two methods of showing this. There is the cancel method, okay? And this is probably what you've been taught in math class, although maybe not, I don't know. So you would have A is equal to B over C, and then in order to declutter the B, we're going to multiply this by C, because if I have a C on the top and a C on the bottom, those two will cancel. But whatever I do to one side, I always have to do to the other side. Okay? And that will leave me with B is equal to C times A, but I will usually rewrite it as B is equal to C times A, because I will be solving for B. And if you remember last week when we had, say, like distance is equal to, or sorry, not distance, velocity is equal to distance over time. So I wanted to have the velocity on the left-hand side of the equation. So what we're going to be doing is maybe eventually I'll be taking some values and plugging them in for C and A, and I'll be solving for B. Okay, so that's the cancel method. The other one, I call it the bring it on up, bring it on down method. Bring it on up, bring it on down. Method. And usually this one, I just do it in my head, but you can write it down if you want to, but it's really nice for being able to do like simple ones like this in your head. A is equal to B over C, and I don't need to get B on the top, so all I need to do is I need to get C on the top. Well, if I have something cluttering up B on the right-hand side, if I have something on the bottom, I can bring it on up to the top. Bring it on up. So we're bringing C on up to the other side. So basically, if you're moving something from one side to the other, and it's only multiplication and division, if it's on the bottom, you bring it to the top. If it's on the top, you bring it on down to the bottom. Up to the top, on the other side. And so what that would leave me with then is CA is equal to B. Or again, I would probably write it with the B on the left. B is equal to C times A. Okay, and like I said, I would normally do that in my head without having these extra, arrows and stuff. But when I've shown it on the handout, I've shown the arrows so that you can get the hang of doing it that way if you like to do it that way. I don't mind which way you do it as long as you are consistently getting the correct answer. And if you're doing it in your head and consistently getting the correct answer, that is perfectly good. Okay, but many people showing the work so that they don't get confused is an important step, okay? And just so that you know, writing C times A is the same as just writing CA when we're talking about formulas, okay? So that's one thing. That's our first example. Our second example, we're going to use the same equation, but we're going to say A is equal to B over C. And this time we're going to solve for C, which means we need to have C must be on the top, if we're solving for it, and C must be by itself on one side. So the first thing we're going to fix is if C is not on the top, we're going to make sure that it becomes on the top. So hey, C is not on the top. So we're going to use the cancel method here. And this is where we either multiply or divide to get things to cancel out. So we have A is equal to B over C. I don't want C on the bottom. So I'm going to cancel it out over here, which allows me to also multiply it over here, which has now brought C to the top. Okay, now if I was doing that, the bring it on up, bring it on down method, I would say A equals B over C. I would say C is on the bottom. What do I want to do? I want to bring it on up. Where do I have to bring it on up to? Bring it on up to the other side. Okay? So C, then I would have CA is equal to B. Now back in our cancel method, we actually have got the same thing at this point. We have C times A is equal to B. Okay, so we're actually where we left off in our previous example, okay, where we had B all by itself, but we don't want B all by itself this time. This time we've been asked to solve for C. So what's cluttering up C at this point? What is cluttering up C? Yeah, absolutely. A is cluttering up C. So we're going to, over in our cancel method, we're going to say, I don't want A there, so I'm going to divide this side by A so that A cancels out. And that means I also have to divide the other side by A so that I haven't made the equation unequal. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. Now, in the bring it on up, bring it on down method, I want to get rid of A, and it's on the top, so I have to bring it on down. So it's going to end up on the bottom. Okay, so we will end up with C is equal to B, and we brought the A on down over A. And if we look at the cancel method, well, we ended up with C is equal to B over A. So both ways will work. Choose which one you like, okay? We have one last example. Okay, and our one last example is going to be, we are going to have D is equal to E times F, and we are going to isolate E. Okay, isolate E means the same as solve for E. So we need to make sure, same as solve for E. So we need to make sure that E is on the top, and we need to make sure that E is by itself. So always, always, always when you're solving, you have to make sure the variable you're solving for is on the top and that it's by itself. So let's deal with it being on the top first. Oh, hang on, it's already on the top. How handy. So this one is done. Okay. Second one, is it by itself? No, it's not, and somebody is cluttering it on up. And who is cluttering it up? That would be nasty old F there, cluttering it up. So let's do our two different methods. This is our cancel method, multiply and cancel, or divide and cancel. And in this case, D equals E times F. F is on the top and it's cluttering things up. So we actually need to divide by F here in order to cancel F so it's not cluttering up the E anymore. And that means if we did it to one side, we also have to do it to the other side, which means that we now have, and I'm actually just going to do this in one step this time rather than, I probably wouldn't write this step, D over F equals E. I would probably go straight to E equals D over F. But it doesn't matter if you do or you don't, okay? All I've done is I've rewritten this without the crossed out bits. And then I've put it so that the thing I'm solving for is on the left. Okay. Hi, Marcus, no worries. The thing's recorded, so if you missed anything important, you can watch it later. Okay, and let's see. So that was the cancel method. Now we're going to do the bring it on up. I'm just going to call the bring it on up, bring it on down. Buy on, buy out method. That's not very catchy, is it? Okay, bring it on up, bring it on up, bring it on up, bring it on down. There we go. I really, that, no, doesn't bear talking about. Okay, so we had D is equal to E times F, and we want to declutter our E because it's already on top. So the F is on the top, so I'm going to bring it on down. If it's on the top, I bring it on down. If it were on the bottom, I would bring it on up to the other side. And so I would simply at that point have D over F, because remember the F is going down here, is equal to E. Or I could just do it all in my head. Yes, I could say D is equal to E F, and I know I'm bringing my F down, and I know I want E on the left, and so I have E is equal to D over F. Now that's great if you can do that in your head, but for many people in grade 9, because you haven't had a lot of experience doing algebra yet, you haven't had tons of practice, I would recommend, you know, you draw your arrows in or you use the cancellation method, okay? And so then this one we would write as E is equal to D over F. And for grade 9, that's it. We're only ever going to have an equation with 3 variables in it. Okay, and there's only going to be multiplication and division. There's no addition and subtraction, so you don't have to worry about adding to both sides or subtracting from both sides or anything like that. Okay, so solve for the variable. Just make sure it's on the top and make sure it's all by itself. And you can use either method to do it. All right, that's it for today's lesson. I know it was quite short, hey? So you are going to, let's see, for the homework, what you're going to do, this is the sheet that has all the notes on it. So you can see I've, you know, color-coded things and blah, blah, blah. So example 1, example 2, example 3, just the ones we did. Part A of the exercises you are going to complete on your own sheet of paper, or you can do it in this document. I don't care because I'm not going to be marking this part. The reason I'm not going to be marking this part is because all the answers are worked out and shown to you. Okay, this is for practice. I want you to get good at it. So what I want you to do is I want you to do, say, number 1, and then I want you to check your answers. If you didn't get it right, take a look at what you did. Did you follow the steps? You can go back to the examples and say, oh, that looks just like example number 3, okay? Because every one of these questions is going to look exactly like one of these 3 examples. Okay, so every single one of this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Every one of those 12 questions will be based on one of those 3 examples. The letters will be different, but the method will be exactly the same. So, like I said, I'm not gonna like give you feedback on this part because there's not really much for me to feed back on, and there is an answer key provided. Part B, this one, I would like you to, what was I trying to say? I would like you to do this in the document. And I think I'm going to make sure it's in the copy you have in the assignment. I think it actually says this. I think I've got an old copy of this file here. Okay, so in the document, you're going to define electric current. You might want to refer back to last day's handout. Okay, you're going to fill in the following chart. Okay, there's only 3 things in there. We're moving specifically to electricity now, so we're only focusing on electricity. You're going to write the formula for current. We're going to write both versions. And then D, you're going to use the 6-step method. And I wanted to comment, I've been marking your things, and some of you did an amazing job at doing all 6 steps. And you even did things like go and use the quantity symbol and the units, and you didn't forget to box your final answer. And like, it was like you had like a little checklist, and you're going to step 1, check, step 2, check, step 3, check, step 4, check. If you got a lot of feedback on question 5 on the last handout, you're going to want to use this as a checklist, because eventually there's going to be a quiz that involves this kind of stuff, and every question is going to be out of 6. No, it'll actually be out of 7, because there's going to be 1 mark for each step of showing the work, and then 1 mark for the correct answer. So if I just have a correct answer, you're going to get like 1 out of 7. Right? So make sure that you have shown all the work, and most of you have most of the work. There's just a few things missing. A lot of people forgot to box their answer. A lot of people forgot to, when they were plugging in, they forgot to include their units. Okay, that was one thing. And a lot of people forgot to show me, they showed me the given information, but they didn't show me the find information. So there's just, you know, some things missing for some people. Alrighty, so you're going to use the 6-step method to solve this question here. It's just like one from last week, little review. And then finally, question 8, you're only going to do the first 4 steps, because I've got special things to show you next week. Okay, so you're just going to take it up to step 4 where you plug it in, including the units, and we will take it from step 5 next week. Okay, so this is your homework, this worksheet. There is also a video. It is 7 minutes long, and it is on current and voltage, which is the other concept, the second concept in electricity that we're going to be dealing with. So you will review current through that video, and you will get a preview of what voltage is. So not a whole lot to do this week, but still some of you have a few quizzes left over. Some of you didn't finish last week's homework. So if you didn't finish those, then you can get caught up. Oh, that's the other thing for homework this week, is to check your feedback on last week's homework. Check the feedback on last week's assignment. And like I said, if you're at the very end of the alphabet, I may not have gotten to you yet, but I will get to you in about the next 10 minutes or so.